Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Al24 Midnight News coming to you live from the capital Algiers, and these are tonight's top stories. After Paris announced the withdrawal of its forces and its ambassador from Niger, the coup military council demands an official date and timetable for France's withdrawing act. On the sidelines of the work of the UN General Assembly, Namibia renews its position in support of the struggle of the Sahara people, and Polisario Front praises Algeria's stand for it and for just causes in the world. Azerbaijan confirms the success of the Brussels talks with Armenia and confirms that it is an opportunity to normalize relations between Baku and Yerevan. Russian defense destroyed 11 Ukrainian drones over the Belgorod and Kursk regions. Zelensky announces that his country has received American Abrams Tanks. Hello Ghana and welcome. Starting from the African continent, Niger's military council demands an agreement be reached with Paris that sets a timetable for withdrawal of French forces. This comes in the wake of French President Emmanuel Macron's announcements to end cooperation with Niger and withdraw his country's forces after 2 months of refusing to submit to the decision.
Niger's military celebrates the French army's withdrawal as a historic moment, a symbol of the nation's determination for sovereignty. In a televised statement on Monday, the military council stressed the need for a negotiated withdrawal framework for French troops, aiming to enhance efficiency.
The National Council for the Protection of the Homeland, the government and the people of Niger demand that this matter be done through official channels, and the withdrawal of French forces from the country must take place according to a timetable agreed upon through negotiations and an agreement with the government of Niger.
La France a décidé de ramener son ambassadeur.
This follows President Emmanuel Macron's Sunday announcement declaring the withdrawal of approximately 1,500 French troops from Niger and recalling the French ambassador. The decision came after Niger's military leaders closed the country's airspace to French aircraft, both commercial and military.
Africa is the future, and it's been that way for some time now, and it's about time that the rest of the world kind of reckon with that. We saw several leaders during the UN General Assembly make the case that the time for our position at the table as equal partners instead of as just recipients and beneficiaries of aid and diplomacy is now. If the US and the West and Europe does not take this seriously, we will lose those partnerships.
The rising tensions between France and Niger, a former colony, culminate in this withdrawal, resulting from France's refusal to recognize coup leaders' legitimacy over the past 2 months. This announcement deals a blow to France's African policy, mirroring previous troop withdrawals from Mali and Burkina Faso due to coups in those regions.
To Libya now, recovery and reconstruction efforts in Tripoli have gained momentum as judicial and political authorities intensify their meetings to aid hurricane-affected areas of Derna and the Green Mountain regions, striving to rebuild what Hurricane Danielle devastated.
The meeting focused on the repercussions of the Derna disaster, the effort made to recover the bodies of the victims and assess the damage by specialized technical teams, the capabilities provided by the supporting countries in this regard, the mechanisms to support the people to return to normal life, and the steps taken to care for the displaced families.
President Qais Said has postponed a visit by European Commission delegation, assigning the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to communicate this decision. This move, taken during a National Security Council meeting, emphasizes Tunisia's commitment to preserving its financial independence.
في هذا المجلس سنعول على ذواتنا
we will rely on ourselves. Let it be clear to the whole world and to all Tunisians that we will not give up one iota of our sovereignty. And after the tide, there will not come an ebb.
لن يكون هناك أبدا جزر.
Also, President Qais Said expressed a dedication to eliminating social issues, particularly related to human trafficking, highlighting law enforcement efforts.
الظاهرة التي استفحلت ولكننا قاومناها.
A phenomena that has become widespread, but we have resisted it with all the capabilities available to us. The phenomena of human trafficking and organs trafficking. What the security and military authorities have done in the recent period has highlighted that we are steadfast and working to enforce the law everywhere.
فرض القانون.
Namibian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of International Relations reaffirmed her country's support for the legitimate struggle of Sahrawi people. Nandi Daitiawa emphasized this during her meeting with the Sahrawi Foreign Affairs Minister on the sidelines of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Nandi also added that her country has also suffered from the deprivation of its people of their rights to freedom, and therefore Namibia's position in support of the rights of the Sahrawi people to self-determination is a firm position that enjoys the consensus of all political forces in the country. Vice President of the Sahrawi National Council, Salek Mohammed Al-Mahdi, on Tuesday praised the benefit of the Sahrawi representatives in a training session in the Algerian parliament, considering it an important step toward the framework of Algeria's support for the Sahrawi people and their just cause. Saeed Al-Mahdi said in this regard that this step falls within the framework of improving the qualifications of Sahrawi institutions in the light of the war that Sahrawis are fighting against the Moroccan occupation, and in that parliamentary diplomacy is important at the present time to confront the colonizer.
هذه خطوة مهمة جدا.
This is a very important step which comes in the context of support for the Sahrawi people to which Algeria has accustomed us. This step comes in the context of the promotion of Sahrawi institutions, which, as you know, are still in the construction and development phase due to the war for independence. Certainly, this highly needed visit was very positive and beneficial to the entire fellow Sahrawi MPs.
كنا في أمس الحاجة لها.
The long-standing crisis surrounding the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has rekindled as Egypt and Ethiopia both acknowledging the failure of recent ministerial talks in Addis Ababa, pointing fingers at each other for the impasse. Hussein Berkan.
The latest round of Renaissance Dam negotiations between Egypt and Ethiopia, which involved Sudan, ended in disappointment after 2 days of discussions in Addis Ababa. Cairo attributed the deadlock to Addis Ababa inflexibilities and deviation from previous agreements.
The recent negotiations failed to yield significant progress in the dam talks. Ethiopia exhibited a tendency to backtrack on several previously agreed upon points within the negotiation process. They continue to reject any compromise solutions and internationally accepted technical arrangements.
Ethiopia responded by refuting Egypt's claims, arguing that Egypt's positions undermine the 2015 Declaration of Principles agreement. Ethiopia expressed some optimism about the negotiations, highlighting progress made in identifying potential areas of consensus. The discussions will continue in Cairo next October.
Progress has been made in identifying areas where the three nations can find common ground. Tripartite talks will continue in Cairo in October 2023. Egypt's insistence on maintaining a colonial-era treaty and monopolistic exploitation hinders tangible progress.
This exchange of accusations adds another chapter of a series of discussions that often culminate in disappointment. It dulls hopes of reaching a legal agreement that regulates the dam's filling and operations, alongside Sudan and Egypt. Even the prospect of seeking recourse through the UN Security Council seems remote, with the issue now under the jurisdiction of the African Union.
In a different matter now, according to Bahrain state news agency, 2 Bahraini servicemen were killed and several others wounded on Monday in Houthi drone attack against forces of the Saudi-led coalition in Saudi Arabia near the border. The Saudi-led military alliance condemned the attack and said it followed other hostile actions by the group, including an attack on power distribution unit and a police station near the border. The United States also condemned on Tuesday the Houthi drone attack that killed 2 Bahraini servicemen and wounded several others.
We strongly condemn the September 25th attack carried out by Houthi elements on the Saudi-Yemeni border that killed 2 Bahraini service members and injured many others. This unprovoked attack threatens the longest period of calm since the war in Yemen began.
The UN Special Envoy for Yemen, Hans Goldenberg, condemned the attack that claimed the lives of 2 soldiers from Bahrain and injured several others in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He expressed concern over the continued military tensions at the Yemeni border and the several front lines in Yemen over the past months that led to casualties, including civilian loss of life. Goldenberg emphasized the need for decisive steps toward a sustainable nationwide ceasefire and resumption of an inclusive political process to end the conflict. The leader of the Spanish Conservative People's Party, Alberto Núñez Feijóo, said that a parliamentary investigation committee will be formed to uncover the reasons for the sudden change in Spain's position on Western Sahara. In his speech before the Spanish Parliament on Tuesday, Feijóo confirmed that representatives of the Sumar party would vote strongly in favor of this step.
Las Cortes conocerán las razones del cambio de posición.
There will be a parliamentary investigation committee to find out the reasons for the change in the Spanish position on Western Sahara. And I'm sure that the women representatives of the Sumar party will vote in favor of this.
Still in Spain, the conservative leader Alberto Núñez Feijóo called on his rival for presidency Pedro Sánchez to clarify the upcoming and controversial amnesty plan for separatist activists. In opening remarks to the lawmakers in Madrid Tuesday, Feijóo said a potential amnesty law for Catalan successionist activists that could pave the way for acting Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez to remain in office is unconstitutional.
Amnesty, self-determination of part of the nation or similar or equivalent formulas do not appear in the project I have come to present to you. Before the drifting petitions I have listened to over the past weeks, I believe that the person who aspires to be the Prime Minister of all Spaniards, all of them, must make this clear from the first moment. I am doing this. Let's speak clearly about Mr. Puigdement's current offer. He wants a prime leader allied to his personal and party cause. He doesn't care whether that Prime Minister is from the PP or the Socialist Party. He has offered both of us exactly the same thing. So the only difference can only lie in the integrity of both possible candidates that can respond to him, you or me, Mr. Sanchez.
Armenia announced that at least 28,000 people had fled Nagorno-Karabakh nearly a week after the attack carried out by Azerbaijan in the region. For her part, the head of the U.S. Agency for Development, Samantha Power, appealed to facilitate the delivery of necessary humanitarian aid to civilians, describing the situation there as horrific.
Over 20,000 ethnic Armenians fled to Armenia following Azerbaijan's seizure of the long-disputed Nagorno-Karabakh, many through the Lachin corridor. The border area on the Armenian side was congested with traffic, as hungry and exhausted Armenians jammed the roads to flee what once served as their home.
We made it safely here, but the column was very large. Lots of cars drive. The road was tough.
The exodus is growing. Thousands more are expected to flee over the next coming days. The UN Refugee Agency raised concerns over the movement of civilians.
UNHCR is calling on all sides to protect civilians and to fully respect international humanitarian and refugee law, allowing safe passage of civilians. We are concerned with the increasing number of people fleeing to Armenia, and we call on all parties to refrain from actions that would cause displacement of civilians and ensure their safety, security, and human rights. And nobody should be forced to flee their homes.
The critical situation has stimulated diplomatic efforts from both Baku and Yerevan.
There was a constructive atmosphere, especially advancing Armenia-Azerbaijan peace process based on our structured negotiations. And from Azerbaijan's side, we once again reiterated Azerbaijan's stronger intentions and willingness to advance regional peace agenda, especially bilateral peace treaty between the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan. We do think that there is a historical moment, and this moment should be used for the benefit of the region.
The US called on Azerbaijan to protect the rights of civilians and allow in humanitarian and monitoring missions.
First and foremost, we are calling on Azerbaijan to maintain the ceasefire and take concrete steps to protect the rights of civilians in Nagorno-Karabakh. President Aliyev has promised to guarantee the rights of ethnic Armenians. Azerbaijan must live up to that promise.
The situation may worsen, especially with 120,000 people expected to flee to border towns in the South Caucasus.
To Russia-Ukraine fight now, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced that its air defense units destroyed at least 11 Ukrainian drones over the Belgorod and Kursk regions. The ministry stated in a separate statement published via Telegram that it shot down 7 drones over the Belgorod region and 4 others in the Kursk. The Ministry of Defense did not provide information about possible damage or injuries resulting from the attacks. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday that US-made Abrams tanks have arrived in his country. Following that, Kremlin said that there is no weapon that can change the balance of power on the battlefield.
It has a thick armor, a 120mm main gun, armor-piercing capabilities, and advanced targeting systems, in addition to a 1,500 horsepower turbine engine with a top speed of about 68 kilometers per hour. All of this and more make the Abrams tank the main armor vehicle for many armies and the most modern battle tank in the world. The Abrams tank boasts a rich history, having seen action in numerous conflicts, but now it's gearing up for a new battleground, Ukraine.
We're preparing them to reinforce our actions against the occupiers, and it will be a significant reinforcement.
This is exactly what's been questioned, whether this delivery will be crucial at a time when Ukrainian forces are engaged in brutal fighting on the front lines with Russia, following months of a slow-moving counter-offensive. Russia says the arrival of the Abrams tank in Ukraine, like other weapons, will not alter the situation in the conflict zone.
All this can in no way affect the essence of the special military operation or its outcome. There is no panacea and no one type of weapon that can change the balance of power on the battlefield. There is no such weapon. That's all I can say. Abrams tanks are a serious weapon, but remember how the president spoke about other tanks made in another country, that they burn just like that. Well, these will burn too.
This development is more than just tanks. It's a seismic policy shift. Just a year ago, Western allies were hesitant to send these Western-made war machines to Ukraine. They feared it might drag NATO deeper into the fray, sparking even hotter tensions with Russia. But times have changed, and the Abrams is rolling into Ukraine, bringing a whole new dimension to this high-stakes showdown.
Also in a related matter, now the commander of Russia's Black Sea Fleet and one of Russia's most senior naval officers, Viktor Solokov, was pictured attending a video conference a day after Ukrainian special forces said they had killed him. Sokolov was shown taking part in a video conference with Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and other top admirals and army chiefs. In response to the Russian video, the Ukrainian special forces said on Telegram, since the Russians were urgently forced to publish a response with Sokolov allegedly live, our units are clarifying the information. China firmly safeguarded the sovereignty and the maritime rights and the interests of Hongwei Island, Wang Wenbin, spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said on Tuesday. The Philippine Coast Guard said it has removed a floating barrier installed by China in adjacent waters of Huanyan Island. Speaking at a regular press conference, Wang Wenbin stressed that Philippines is advised not to make troubles.
The so-called statement made by the Philippine side is nothing but its own allegation. China firmly upholds the sovereignty and the maritime rights and interests of Huanyan Island, and we advise the Philippines not to make provocations and make troubles.
In Asia, still South Korea, China and Japan said on Tuesday they want to host a three-nation summit again this year. South Korean foreign minister said leaders of the three countries would meet at the earliest convenient time. South Korea, China, and Japan had agreed to hold a summit every year starting in 2008 to foster regional cooperation. However, the last summer was held in 2019 due to bilateral feuds and the COVID pandemic. The International Energy Agency emphasizes the need for a significant increase in clean energy spending from $1.8 trillion in 2023 to $4.85 trillion annually within the next decade. Failure to adopt clean technologies and reduce fossil fuel demand may result in colossal expenses, including $1.3 trillion yearly to remove carbon dioxide emissions after 2050. The American shale driller Continental Resources said oil is headed as high as $150 a barrel unless U.S. government does more to encourage exploration. During the American Energy Security Summit, Dow Laurer, CEO of the American company, said that if the United States does not redouble its efforts to encourage oil exploration, crude oil will reach between $120 to $150 per barrel due to lack of supply. In the sport news, Algeria has formally withdrawn from the race to host the AFCON competition in 2025 and 2027. The statement was made by the newly elected president of the Algerian Football Federation, FAF, Mr. Walid Sadi, who is trying to focus more on sports internal matters in the country as his primary goal. This decision comes only one day before the long-awaited announcement of the nations that will host these two AFCON tournaments. In a symbolic moment of unity and pride, over 100 Palestinian athletes are gearing up for the Asian Games in Hangzhou this month, aiming to win medals and elevate Palestine's name during the tournament.
In a symbolic moment of unity and pride, 70 Palestinian athletes are gearing up for the Asian Games in Hangzhou this month, aiming to win medals and elevate Palestine's name during the tournament. According to the head of Palestine Asian Games delegation, Nader Jiyousi, this historical opportunity is meant to be a chance for Palestinian athletes to foster friendly ties and gain invaluable experience.
Participating in such an important tournament would present a golden chance to the Palestinian athletes to prove their professional sport skills to the world by competing with athletes from various countries.
Palestinian officials have always emphasized their commitment to participating in sports competitions, despite the challenging conditions that have impacted all facets of life, including sports. For the head of the Palestinian Olympic Committee, the Chinese welcome adds to Beijing's support for the Palestinian cause and their struggle against the Zionist entity.
We're very proud and happy to participate with this number of athletes and in such a country that sees the Palestinian cause as an important file. Their warm welcome to our delegation shows our value for them.
Despite Palestine's consistent participation in every Olympic and Asian Games, it secured only a bronze medal in 2002. Its recent significant achievement, however, was at the Arab Games in Algeria last July. The Asian Games now is another opportunity for Palestine to prove its athletic brilliance on the one hand, and on the other hand it constitutes a celebration of unity and harmony, embodying the true spirit of sportsmanship.
And always we hope the best for Palestine. To this end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for taking part with us in this late hour. For more updates, you can follow our social media platform. And all I can say at the end, take care of yourself and good night.